Thank you for logging on to the PawCast for the week of Monday, November 5th through Friday, November 9th. Hello, I'm Mr. Andrews.
And I'm Miss Pegram.
And here's what's happening on our team this week.
All right. Hello again, everyone. We're going to talk about what's happening in ELA and social studies next week. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the parents that have signed up for our conferences. They'll be going on the whole week of November. So make sure that you check your email for that sign up link on signup.com. Thank you so much for those who have already done that. All right, so what's happening in ELA next week? We are continuing our ecosystems unit, which everyone is doing such a fantastic job on already. We're already through RQ4. We're moving on to RQ5, which is talking about energy and food pyramids, and consumers and producers and decomposers and where they fall into that. And then moving on to RQ6, which is fairly similar, a little different, and we'll talk about that. But the food web, and how that interacts with their ecosystem, the plants that live there, the animals that live there, and all of that. So look forward to that coming up in ELA next week. Also, there will be another reading packet that goes home Monday. Make sure that you're really looking over that. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. They're due Thursday. Happy to help in any way. They're going to help us with that vocabulary, that reading comprehension, all of that stuff that we need to practice for the end of grade tests. So that will be coming out Monday as well. In social studies coming up this week, we're going to move on to our second president, John Adams. So look out for that coming up next week.
This week during the math portion of our school day, we're going to be working with customer units of measure and the metric system. We'll be converting from one type of measure to another, and we'll give special attention to the metric system and comparing the metric prefixes to the base 10 number system. So students will be learning that, working with it, and we'll have an assessment on Friday. During the science part of our day, we are officially now part of the weather unit. Now, we've already spent a little bit of time talking about the ways we measure weather conditions, the types of instruments and tools that are used to measure, with emphasis on air pressure and barometers. Students are going to learn that barometric pressure plays such a part of all weather. So we'll expand upon that this week by talking about cloud types, how clouds form. We have some time-lapse video showing clouds form, and we'll discuss that and the conditions it takes. We'll also be relating back to information learned when we talked about the water cycle. So the evaporation, condensation, precipitation parts will be used heavily this week to make connections. We'll also be using Wednesday of this week to expand on our knowledge of the scientific method. Science fair is coming up for all 5th grade students. And so we're going to take Wednesday to use the scientific method to solve a problem. We'll do that as a class. Each student is going to be helping me solve the problem, and we're going to be entering information into our journal exactly the way it will need to look when students perform their own science fair projects. Now, we're not currently making a list of what I want to do for a science fair project. We do have rules and regulations that Guilford County Schools and the state of North Carolina hold us to. So not anything goes. So I'll talk with our students a little bit about what a science fair project looks like in Guilford County for elementary students. And then next week on our podcast, parents, I'm going to give you that same information so you can be a guide for our students. But students already know the very first thing we're going to do, and probably one of the most important parts of the scientific method, is becoming an expert. Finding more data and information about your topic so that as you make a hypothesis, not only have you gathered information, but you also have become somewhat of an expert on what it is you're trying to test or find an answer for. I'll have more about that next week on the PawCast.
Once again, it is riddle time. Get ready, listen closely. I have 4 legs, but I only have 1 foot. What am I? All right, guys. Thanks again for listening to the PawCast. See you Monday.